Hi everyone, welcome to the channel. My name is Nick Cosgrove and I am back with this week's No Filter Q&A. This is the episode where I answer all questions related to diet, training, and supplementation that I received over the past 7 days from our in-house clients, online clients, as well as a few of our online followers. Remember, if you have any questions related to your workouts, your nutrition, or supplements you're taking, not taking, considering taking, please feel free to email me your questions at nick@foreverfitperformance.com. Or you can also DM them to me on my Instagram at @fitcosgrove_. So let's get started with this week's No Filter Q&A. Question number 1. Hi, Nick. What do you recommend for a 6-day training split? For a 6-day training split, I like the old school bodybuilding split. I think that works great. I mean, in no particular order, chest day 1, back day 2, shoulders day 3, bis and tris day 4, quads day 5, and then hamstrings and glutes day 6. Now, obviously, you can put this in an order that works for you and with your lifestyle or what you might want to prioritize first. Say you have a weak lower body, you might want to put legs on the first 2 days of that training split. So you work out 6 days in a row, for example, take 1 day off. And then when you start fresh on, say, Monday, Tuesday, put those as your first 2 leg days. And yes, you can work those 2 particular workouts back to back because, for example, if you're doing quads on day 1, then you could do hamstrings and glutes day 2. Domes doesn't usually sit in until about day 3, the 48-hour mark. So you're still good. But there's some thoughts behind doing a 6-day training split where you could work each muscle group twice a week. I wouldn't recommend doing that. Like I wouldn't recommend working your chest twice a week, your back twice a week, your biceps twice a week, triceps twice a week, and so on. I wouldn't recommend doing that. The only muscle group that I actually have a few of my clients following on a training split that they work twice a week would be the lower body. And again, they're not working the exact same muscles. They're working their quadriceps on one day, their hamstrings and glutes on a separate day. And I'll usually try to put those workouts back to back because, as I mentioned, DOMS takes about 48 hours to set in. And for those that don't know, DOMS stands for delayed onset muscle soreness. So I like to put in the quads on one day, and then I'll put in the hamstrings and glutes the very next day. But you can structure that however you like, but that's what I would do on a 6-day training split. The reason I don't like working the other groups like chest and back and arms and shoulders twice a week is I find if you really work those muscles to failure, like all out, lots of volume, lots of sets, lots of reps, once a week is more than enough. I also think that's a good way to avoid injury because you don't want to overtrain the muscle. For example, you wouldn't want to go in one day and do incline barbell bench press, incline flat barbell bench press, and then do some flat dumbbell flies, and then 2 days later go back and do the same thing. Or even if you were to do a full-on dumbbell workout, incline dumbbell press, flat dumbbell press, and let's say you do some cable crossover flies, you're still working the chest muscles, and if you've worked them really hard, they haven't recovered in time enough, and you're just going to overtax the system, and you're not going to really get any results, and you risk injury. So that's what I recommend for a 6-day training split. Chest 1 day, back 1 day, shoulders 1 day, biceps and triceps 1 day, quadriceps 1 day, and then hamstrings and glutes another day. There's your 6-day training split. All right, question number 2. Hi, Nick. I know you don't like the If It Fits Your Macros diet. I hate that diet. So what do you recommend to your clients who like to have variety in their diet and go out to restaurants? They can still have variety in their diet and go out to restaurants without putting shitty food into their system because it fits their macros. There's lots of good food out there, and you just have to be a little bit creative. For example, for myself, like I eat about 8 meals a day. One of those meals will be salmon and brown rice. Another meal will be cod and quinoa. Another meal will be chicken and yams, and maybe another meal will be ground turkey and sweet potatoes. Then I'll use oatmeal in one meal. I'll use cream of rice in another meal. I'll even mix up my protein powder. Sometimes I use chocolate whey protein powder. I'll use strawberry whey protein powder. I'll throw some vanilla whey protein powder. So yeah, maybe it doesn't sound that exciting to the average person, but there is variety. You can't say, no, there's no variety in that diet. I don't like when people associate variety with shitty foods. Having French fries, pizza, and burgers, and chicken wings, and I don't even know what else, all this gross food that people want to consume doesn't mean variety. Well, I guess it does mean variety, but it's crappy food variety. So you can still eat lots of good, healthy foods and have a lot of variety in your diet. Typically, when I go out to restaurants, I tend to stick with the same foods that I eat at home. Obviously, if I'm in a restaurant, there's probably going to be, like, for example, not many restaurants I go to serve brown rice. So they might serve some white jasmine rice. That's not a big deal. I'll have that. But I'll still look for like the tuna poke bowls, or I'll order some, if I go to somewhere like, say, the Keg, for example, I'll have, I don't really eat red meat. So I'll have like they usually have fish. So I'll have salmon, and they'll serve that with maybe some couscous or something. That's fine. Not a big deal. But you can't sell me on the if it fits your macros diet, because I know the problem with that diet is I know people who follow that diet and they're having cheesecake and they're having donuts and they're having muffins for breakfast, they're having cereal. And again, it doesn't help for your performance in the gym and in day-to-day activities. What I don't like about that diet, and I've said this before, is how it makes your energy levels fluctuate throughout the day. So just because something fits your macros, but it's high in sugar, what's that going to do to your insulin levels? What's that going to do to your blood sugar levels later on in the day? So if it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon and you're crashing, you shouldn't be crashing. You should have lots of energy. So that's a sign that something's wrong with your diet. As I'm doing this Q&A right now, the time is 1:15 in the afternoon. I have lots of energy. I feel great. And I associate that to, or I attribute that, to good diet, right? So that's why I don't like it if it fits your macros diet. You can get lots of variety by eating healthy foods. You might have to be a little bit more creative in the kitchen from time to time. Mix up your condiments. I use sugar-free ketchup. I'll use low sodium soy sauce. I even use natural peanut butter on some of my foods. I'll even put some natural peanut butter on my chicken and rice just to mix it in like a peanut sauce. So, and there's tons of spices out there that you can add to your dishes. Mrs. Dash is one of them. I like to use cinnamon in a lot of my foods. I use cinnamon on my sweet potatoes. It tastes really good. I don't just put it in my oatmeal and cream of rice. I'll use it on my sweet potatoes as well. So you just have to get a little bit creative in the kitchen. And when you're out for restaurants, just look for the foods that are on your current plan that you're following, if you're following a good, healthy, clean diet, and try to stick to those foods. And don't worry too much if it's not perfect, but at least try to stick to the food group that you're looking for. Don't just go, well, I'm at a restaurant, so I'm going to sit there and have onion rings and a big greasy burger or a big pizza. That's not something you normally eat on your diet. Don't have it in a restaurant. All right. Okay. Next question. Question 3. Nick, can you please tell me how to get rid of my love handles? I've been following your 12-week weight loss diet on the app and have pretty much lost my belly, but I can't seem to get rid of my love handles. Are there any exercises that I should be doing to target this area? Unfortunately, we can't choose where our body decides to lose fat first and last. I know I work with a lot of people online, and the first place I noticed where a lot of people, when they start a weight loss plan, is they start to lose weight in their face, especially older people, like over the age of 40. I noticed that's usually the first place that they typically will lose the weight, myself included. Whenever I start to go on a diet plan, the first place I lose weight is always in my cheeks. And everyone's different, right? So I work with some people and I can notice when they send me their weekly check-ins, I'll notice that they're actually losing weight more quickly in their upper body, or I'll notice some people will lose weight more quickly in their lower body. With women, I typically notice that they tend to lose weight a lot more quickly in the upper body than men. And with men, they typically lose it a lot more quickly in the lower body than women. Now, regardless where the weight decides to come off first versus last, it will eventually come off. So as long as you continue to follow the plan, you will eventually lose those love handles. You just have to be patient and stay consistent on the plan. Now, as far as targeting that area specifically with certain exercises, as you know, there's no such thing as spot reduction, but there are exercises that you can do for the obliques. One of the exercises that I would recommend you do not do, and I see tons of people doing this, and I don't really have too much room here, but I'll try to demonstrate standing, is some people take a weight and they'll start to go down with the weight like this. They'll take a plate, they take a weighted plate or a dumbbell, and they start to go down and they think, oh, wow, I'm really working my intercostals and my obliques. You're not. Okay, what's going to happen when you do an exercise like that? Your obliques are going to grow outwards. So when you have a t-shirt on, or if you're wearing a suit, or you're in a dress, what's going to happen is it's going to give you that illusion like you look like a rectangle. Okay, and if you're someone who wants to develop a nice looking physique, you want to have kind of like that V taper, both man and woman. You want to have that V taper, right? So that small waist, right? So if you're working your obliques and you're using a weight, guess what's going to happen? Again, they're going to grow externally outwards. So you don't want to do that. So I'm sure if you're watching this, you've probably seen someone in the gym or a few people in the gym, they take a dumbbell, they take a plate and they start going side to side like this. Don't do that exercise. I used to do that exercise when I was 15 years old, until an older bodybuilder came up to me and smacked me in the side of my head and said, what the hell are you doing? And explained to me why I shouldn't be doing that. Made perfect sense then. It still makes sense today. Now, if you do want to target that area, okay, if you want to hit that particular area, what I would recommend doing, sorry, I just had a little something happen on my phone here. All right. What I would recommend doing is doing exercises like reverse crunches, exercises like bicycles. Another great exercise for working your intercostals and obliques, hanging leg raises. Those work great. All those exercises can be found on our online app. There's also a few videos on my Instagram that you can find too. If you scroll down, you'll see those videos for working your abdominal region, but those really target the intercostals and obliques perfectly. Okay, so hanging leg raises, and you can even do hanging leg raises with a slight twist. I have both videos up on the app. I have regular hanging leg raises and I actually have twisting hanging leg raises. Those work really well. Bicycle crunches work excellent, and reverse crunches. I do reverse crunches with a lot of my clients. I find those work fantastic, not just for the intercostals and obliques, but also the transverse abdominals and the rectus abdominals as well. So those will definitely help tighten up the area. But again, stay consistent and stay committed to your diet. Don't fall off the diet just yet. It's just your body's deciding that's the last place it wants to lose. I'm the same way. Whenever I dieted for shows, the last place I would lose body fat was in my lower back and my obliques, always. My legs and my glutes would come in within the first 3 weeks, but it took me a while to lose weight in that area. And honestly, it just comes down to where your body carries the most estrogen, right? And that's why for women, they have a difficult time losing weight in the lower body. That's very common for a lot of females I work with. And with the guys, it's usually the upper body, but it will come off. Just stay on the plan and don't get too focused on that area. Just say, okay, it's going to come with time. It's a little bit more stubborn in that area, but I'm going to keep working on the plan, stay committed to the diet, do my cardio. I promise you it will come. And yeah, by you doing those exercises, that will definitely help harden and firm that area. All right, next question. Question number 4. Hi, Nick. I'm having serious stomach problems and can't get in to see a specialist for another 4 to 6 weeks. Welcome to Canada. I get severe bloating and constipation after I eat. Do you have a protocol you use to help clients with gut issues? I don't have a specific protocol that I use with clients who are developing or who have gut issues. Okay, usually what I'll do is I'll refer them to a gut health expert. I have someone that I do refer out to clients. Her name is Stephanie Talbot. If you'd like to get her contact information, you can also just DM me on Instagram and I'll gladly send it to you. Or you can also go see a naturopath, get your blood work done, and you can do an allergy test, right? Now, with that said, I do work with a few clients, quite a few clients actually, who have different cases of IBS. Some really severe cases of IBS and some not so bad, but they still have a little bit of IBS. So what I'll typically do with those clients is I'll put them on a old school basic bodybuilder diet plan. No dairy, no fruit, no spicy foods, and I'll start them off with that. Now, for people who don't have severe IBS issues, this usually works really well because as soon as we start to take out dairy, and I'm not saying fruit's bad, but for a lot of people have a hard time digesting fruit. So I don't necessarily take out all fruit, but I'm not a big fan of putting too much fruit into a plan. So I take out, let's say I should take out a lot of fruit. I don't take out all fruit, but I do eliminate dairy from the plan. I eliminate spicy foods, and I'll play around with their macros a little bit too. 1 week, I might give them a little bit more carbohydrates, less fats, and see how that works for their digestive system. The other week, I'll give them more fats, less carbs, see how that works for their digestive system. They provide me with feedback, right? How do you feel? Are you feeling constipated? Do you get bloated? Are you having diarrhea? And then we do some troubleshooting and say, well, okay, these foods aren't working for you right now, so let's take this out. I've mentioned this before. I have quite a few people who have a really hard time digesting foods like quinoa and brown rice, but they have no problem digesting foods like yams and sweet potatoes. So rather than question and say, well, why can't this person eat brown rice or quinoa? They're healthy foods. It just doesn't work well with their digestive tract. So the alternative, yams, sweet potatoes, oatmeal, that works usually well. Another thing you could try doing too, if you're having stomach issues, is you could consider taking a probiotic, right? Or a digestive enzyme, or both. I've had some clients who do take probiotics though, and they say that it actually makes it worse. So you have to be careful with which probiotics you're taking. And, that's a little bit out of my scope of practice. That's something that you might want to talk to with a naturopath. If you're having a hard time getting in with a specialist, my recommendation would be to actually book a private consultation with at least a well-known naturopath. And you shouldn't have to have a 4 to 6 week wait for that. Obviously, you're going to pay for it, but it might be worth it. But yeah, I don't have a necessarily a gut protocol, but I do have people that I gladly would refer out to you. So all you have to do is just send me a DM. I'll send you Steph's contact information. She's excellent. I know she has a protocol that she uses because she's worked with a few of my clients before, and they've only spoken very, very highly of her in the past. But if I'm working with someone who already knows that they have a slight case of IBS or even an extreme case of IBS, I will put them back on a very basic diet to start. And then as we continue on the diet plan, I'll start adding in a little bit more variety just to see how their body responds. But my goal is to get them back to having a regular, not to sound gross, but to make sure they are going regular, make sure we have no bloating, zero constipation, and then we can start adding those foods in. I'm not a big fan of using elimination diets, but I will put people on just a basic plan to start and then start adding things in or taking things out depending on how they're doing. Okay, on the plan. I just don't want to take out everything because we don't know what's causing the issue. So taking out everything, we're not going to know right away. So little changes. I compare it to landing a plane. You're going to land the plane nice and smooth, gradually. That's just going to nosedive into the ground. And that's what I do with my clients when I'm designing a nutritional plan. And not just for my clients who are dealing with IBS issues, for all my clients. Not all foods are going to work for all people, just like not all exercises work for all people. So you have to find the plan that works for you and customize it, tailor it to you, and then go from there. All right. Next question. Hey, Nick, I'm following your mass gaining diet plan and was wondering if it matters if I substitute the chicken in meal 3 for salmon instead. I really like salmon and don't mind eating it 2 to 3 times a day. I don't mind eating salmon 3 to 4 times a day. I love salmon. The problem is though, and this person's talking about my mass gaining diet plan. I have a few of them on the training app. Where I'll have different, for example, meal 3 versus meal 5. Meal 3 is what I call a lean protein source. Meal 5 is where I incorporate a fatty protein source. Now there is a difference. Okay, one being that a fatty protein source like salmon, for example, contains obviously a lot more healthy fats. It's higher in calories than, let's say, a chicken breast, which contains very little fat. It does contain some fat, but not nearly the amount that salmon contains. And it's going to be lower in calories. So to answer that question, no, you can't substitute salmon for chicken. It doesn't work like that. Yes, technically they're both proteins. Yes, neither one of them contain carbohydrates. However, one is classified as a fatty protein and one is classified as a lean protein for a reason. Okay, and that reason, as I explained, one contains healthy fats, more calories, which you actually do need, and one contains very lean chicken breast. I think this 8 ounce of chicken breast has less than 3 grams of fat, so very low in fat. Protein content's about the same though, so the protein is the same, but you can't substitute one for the other because they're not the same type of protein. Okay, so that's very important when you are designing your own nutritional plan, that you pay attention to your lean proteins versus your fatty proteins. Okay, just like you want to make sure that when you're putting in your carbohydrates, you know the difference between your complex carbs, your simple carbs, and your fibrous carbs, right? So to answer that question, no, you can't. You can, however, if you don't want to have chicken breast, you can have a turkey breast, right? You can have lean ground turkey. You can even have lean ground chicken if you want, and you don't even have to do meat. I mean, you can do some lentils. Yeah, there's a little bit of carbohydrates in there, but I mean, we're talking about a lean protein source right now. So I'm not too concerned about the carbohydrates. And if I am working with a vegetarian, what I'll typically do is for the protein source, I'll load them up on lentils, but then I'll take out the rice, the yams, sweet potatoes, or so on. I'll take out the direct carb source. So play around with it, but to answer that question, I would not recommend substituting a lean protein source with a fat protein source, vice versa. All right, next question. Hi, Nick, can you please explain the benefits of using a suicide grip when bench pressing? I see so many people using this grip, but I'm scared if I use it, I will drop the bar on myself. Okay. So for those people that don't know, a suicide grip is typically used in a bench press. You can use it. I've seen some people use it when they deadlift. I actually still use it when I do bent over barbell rows if I use a pronated grip. But essentially what it is if you're grabbing a bar, you're holding it like this. Here. Use part of my Dyson. So this is the barbell. Okay. So rather than wrapping my thumbs, I'm actually holding the bar like this. Okay. And that's called the suicide grip. Why I like this grip, to show you one more time. So it's thumbs out like this rather than wrapping your thumbs. A lot of beginners will wrap their thumbs when they're using a bar because they do feel a little bit more safe doing this. But as you become more advanced with your training, what I usually recommend to most of my clients when they're doing exercises like barbell presses or barbell rows is to put their thumbs on top of the bar. Okay, like that. Now, the reason I recommend you do that is because when you wrap your thumb, you use what we call right here, this guy here, it's called your radialis. Okay, so your thumb goes all the way down. This muscle, the radialis, goes all the way down into your forearm extensors and into your bicep, into your brachialis. The problem is when you wrap your thumb, let's say I'm wrapping my thumb and I'm doing a row. If I'm wrapping my thumb, I'm going to use a lot of my bicep. Even if I'm using straps or train grabbers, I'm still using my bicep quite a bit. So by taking my thumb and putting it on top of the bar or on top of the V-bar if I'm doing a row, I'm taking my brachialis out of the equation and I'm using my lat. Now, in the case of a barbell press, like this person's asking, when you wrap the thumb, same thing happens is now you're actually using that brachialis to actually help push, and you're going to use a lot more anterior deltoid because your brachialis is connected to your anterior deltoid. So what happens when you wrap your thumb, it goes all the way down your forearm into your bicep and goes into your anterior deltoid. That's why a lot of people, when they bench press, they feel it in their shoulders because they're wrapping their thumb. Everything is tight. So as soon as you loosen that grip and you use the suicide grip, which is like this, now your brachialis can relax, your shoulder can relax. And in the case of a bench press, you're going to stimulate your muscle fibers much more efficiently. Okay, so I know for beginners, the suicide grip, it's called a suicide grip for a reason, right? You could easily drop that bar if you're not paying attention to what you're doing. I've used the suicide grip for 20 years now when I'm doing a lot of barbell work. It's personally the only grip I will use because I can actually have a stronger mind to muscle connection when I use it. And 9 times out of 10, when I get my clients to do it, they feel that stronger mind to muscle connection as well when they're working the upper body. But when I'm working with a beginner and I can tell they're a little hesitant to use that grip, I don't push it on them. I don't push it on them until after a few weeks of them training consistently. And I'm like, hey, you know what? I want you to try this grip out. 9 times out of 10, they prefer it. In the odd case, there's maybe 1 or 2 people who are like, no, I prefer wrapping it. No problem. But I would say the majority of people prefer suicide grip. Just like the majority of people I work with when they squat, they prefer squatting shoes off versus shoes on, right? I've gone over that before, the benefits of squatting with your shoes off versus shoes on. So I hope that answers the question, but I'm a big fan, a huge advocate of using the suicide grip, and it's something I recommend to a lot of my clients, especially if you don't want to have any rotator cuff injuries down the line. And if you're training your back, for example, you don't want to be using your bicep, right? You want to be using your lats. And that's the hard part, is when you're training back, we tend to use a lot of the bicep because the bicep is the synergist muscle group. Yeah, straps and grabbers, which I'm also a huge advocate of using, will help turn off the biceps a little bit because you can grab the bar a lot more loosely when you're not tensing up just to hold on for your grip. But you're still going to use that if you wrap your bicep, if you're wrapping your thumb. So if you put your thumb on top, whether you're using a V-bar, lat pull down, wherever it is, you're going to feel your lats way more. Same thing for the presses. You're going to feel your chest a lot more if you use a suicide grip. Thumbs out. Use it if you feel comfortable. If you don't feel comfortable, don't use it. If you're hesitant to use it for the first few times doing a bench press, get someone to spot you and just ask them to keep their hands under the bar. So if something does happen and the bar does slip, they'll catch it. Chances are the bars aren't going to slip though, especially if you're really paying attention to what you're doing. And you should always be paying attention to what you're doing in the gym. Okay, next question. Hi, Nick. I have pain in my lower back when I try doing standing barbell military presses or landmine presses. Should I take these exercises out? Not necessarily. I'd have to see how you're doing these exercises to be able to correct your technique. And one thing I do with a lot of my clients that work with me online is if they're doing certain exercises and they're telling me, hey, Nick, I don't know if I'm doing this right, and I don't work with them in person, I'll ask them to set up on a tripod, set their phone up in the gym and have themselves record themselves doing the exercise. And then I'll be able to provide them with some feedback and say, okay, this is what you're doing wrong. Let's take this, let's take your leg, put it back a notch, or let's put your arm back a little bit more, or angle yourself on this degree, so on. Now, in the case of a barbell military press and a landmine press, what you want to make sure you're doing is you're always keeping one leg back. Okay, so you're standing in what we call a staggered stance, one leg forward, one leg back. I also recommend that it's the leg that you put back to stabilize is your dominant side always. So for example, if you're right-handed and you're doing a barbell military press and you're doing a standing press, put that right leg back to stabilize, left leg forward. Same thing with a landmine press. If you're doing landmine press now, if you know what a landmine press is, you do one side at a time. So you do 15 reps to the right, and then you do 15 reps to the left. So if you're doing the right side, right leg back. If you're doing your left side, left leg back. And that will help take a little bit of pressure off the L4, L5 region in the lower back. That's very common for a lot of people when they do exercise where they're standing and there's a weight going up over their head, or in the case of a landmine going kind of diagonally. It's very common for them to feel lower back pain because those muscles, especially in the spinal erectors, they're weak for a lot of people. So you have to develop a strong core. But what I find takes a lot of pressure off the lumbar region is having that leg back just to stabilize, and you're not compressing the discs as much. So that's what I would recommend doing. And if you're still not too sure if you're doing it correctly, send me a video and I'll gladly correct your technique for you, because I don't work with you. So I don't really know what your technique is like, what it looks like. But chances are you probably don't have to take the exercise out. Okay, you just have to maybe fix your technique, fix your form, and that will be problem solved. Lighten the weight for a few weeks too. That's important too. I tell this to a lot of people is if they're feeling pain and they're not actually feeling the exercise, lighten the weight, slow down the reps, and really try to develop that mind to muscle connection. Okay, don't worry about the weight right now. The weight's irrelevant. Your muscles have no idea how much weight you're lifting. Sorry, that's all ego, right? So don't worry about the weight. Just try to focus on the form, the intensity, and the weight will come. All right. Next question. Oh, good questions today. Hi, Nick. Can you please explain the difference between an underhand grip pull down versus an overhand grip pull down? Do they work the same muscles? They work the same muscle group, but they don't work the exact same muscles. So lat pull down, overhand grip, right? Wide grip, overhand grip, pretty standard. This is something we see a lot of people doing in the gym. Bring it down, you bring it down to your clavicle, the bar, and back up again. So I'm doing a lat pull down, bring it down and back up. This is what we call a pronated grip, or what you're referring to as an overhand grip. So that's going to work the outer upper lats. Now, if you use an underhand grip, which is reverse grip, palms facing you, it's almost like a chin up. You're bringing the bar down like this. That's going to work the lower / inner lats. Okay, and that all is because all you've done now is you've gone from a pronated to a supinated. So pronated / overhand grip works your outer lats. Supinated underhand grip works your lower lats. That's the main difference. I will do reverse grip pull down. I will do both with clients, but with reverse grip pull downs, I don't do those as often because I find what happens is people tend to cheat and they use a lot of their biceps. So it's hard to get people to do that exercise correctly because the first thing they want to do is they want to pull with their biceps. So I say, no, lighten the load and visualize as if you're doing a chin up and you're going to just bring the weight right down and try to squeeze the back of those lats. So with reverse grip pull downs, that's usually an exercise that I don't give to beginners. It's an exercise I usually give to more advanced lifters because they know how to use the lats and they know how to contract them properly without using their biceps. Overhand grip, that one's a little bit different because especially if you're using the suicide grip, this is where the suicide grip comes in handy again, is because if you're not wrapping your thumbs, you're going to pull less of your biceps and you're going to pull more of your lats. So that's the main difference. Overhand grip, you're going to work your upper outer lats. Underhand grip, also known as reverse grip, also known as supinated grip, you're going to work more of your lower lats and inner lats. So they both work the back, the same muscle group, but they're working different areas of the back. Okay. And as I've always said to all my clients, the back is the largest muscle group in the human body. It is not the legs. Trust me, it is not the legs. Look at an anatomy chart and look at all the different muscles in the back. The back is the largest muscle group by far. All right. Next question. Hey, Nick, what are your thoughts on natural test boosters? Do they really work? I'm going to give my honest opinion on this because I've actually tried them in the past. So I've used natural testosterone boosters like Tribulus horny goatweed. There's another one I use. I can't remember the name of it right now. It'll come to me. Anyway, so these are over the counter. You can go to most supplement stores and you can find them. The reason I took them it had nothing to do with libido. It was just like, oh, this is going to help me get more testosterone, which is going to equate to more muscle. I'll tell you what, I used them, I think, for about 6 months, didn't do a thing, didn't notice a thing at all. Maybe I noticed a little bit more energy, but I don't know. Again, this is another thing too, when you're taking supplements, I don't know how much of it is actually placebo. I didn't notice really any difference though in the weight I was lifting in the gym. My libido, not that I was taking it for libido, but I didn't notice an increase in libido taking it. So if I were to give you my honest opinion on natural testosterone boosters, in my experience, do they work? No. I've known people that have taken them. I've had clients take them. I've had friends take them. And I don't know a single person who has said, wow, this works amazing for me. I haven't. The only people I know who have experienced great results with taking testosterone is pharmaceutical grade testosterone, which is injectable testosterone, right? And also known as steroids. Although I don't really classify testosterone as a steroid, but some people do, and it would be listed under the banned substances, for example. So you don't take that without a prescription from a doctor, right? But for people I know who have been on TRT, or also known as testosterone replacement therapy, and are using what I call the real testosterone, pharmaceutical grade testosterone that you inject into your muscles, that does work. Yes, 100% that works. Again, I'm not advocating, I'm not telling anyone to use that. I'm just saying, in my experience working with people who've used TRT or who've used pharmaceutical testosterone, that does work versus stuff that people buy at the local supplement store over the counter and taking pills that doesn't do anything. I also want to mention there are also creams that people can take for testosterone replacement therapy. Again, I am not a huge advocate of using creams either, because I find creams are tricky. And I've known some of my male clients who've gone on testosterone replacement therapy before, and they didn't want to do injections. A lot of people don't like needles, so they'll use the cream and they'll rub the cream. You can rub the cream on your arm, somewhere on your body. The problem is we sweat, we perspire. You don't know how much of that's actually going in. So my fear with using the cream for testosterone is that it's going to actually throw your hormones all out of whack. So you're going to have these hormonal imbalances. One day you might feel great, the next day you might feel like crap. 1 hour you might have great, crazy energy, high libido, and the next hour you might not. So I don't like that. I like consistency. So if someone were to go on TRT replacement, I would always recommend, first of all, get approval from your doctor, get a prescription from your doctor, but I would also recommend that you're going to do it intramuscular, which would be an injection. Okay. So natural test boosters, in my opinion, I think they're a waste of money. If you're trying to take a supplement to increase your strength, of all my years of taking over-the-counter supplements, I don't take any anymore, except for my BCA powder. And I've explained before, I just actually drink that for the flavor. I don't even do a pre-workout anymore. But of all the supplements that I've noticed, that I actually felt I was able to increase the weights I was lifting in the gym, just basic creatine. And that's cheap. Creatine is creatine is not cheap right now. And that has a lot to do with, inflation, but also it's really hard to get supplements right now. So I've noticed creatine's gone up quite a bit. I've had a lot of people tell me, why is creatine so expensive? I've heard rumors because the war in Russia or the war in Ukraine with Russia. I don't know the exact reason, but yeah, creatine is a little bit more expensive than it was a few months ago, but it's still pretty cheap. It's not like it's crazy expensive, but that does work. The problem with creatine, though, it does cause water retention. So that's what creatine does. It helps hydrate your muscles. So that's why a lot of people, when they take it, they feel a lot stronger in the gym. So it will kind of, if you're someone who is already a little bit overweight or soft, it's going to actually give you an appearance that you're actually even a little bit more soft. So that's why I don't like creatine. I don't take creatine anymore. I haven't taken creatine in probably about 15 years. But when I did take it, I noticed that did help me increase my strength in the gym. But that's the only over-the-counter supplement that I've ever taken that I've noticed really did anything. All right. Okay. Last question. Nick, do you have any female clients who are on HRT therapy? If so, do they find their energy levels are higher in the gym? I'm 52 years old, and my doctor has suggested I consider going on HRT due to the fact that I'm constantly tired, have no energy, and have trouble sleeping. This is a difficult question for me to answer because I'm not a doctor. So I'm going to answer this and B, I'm a man. But I'm going to answer this based on my experience of working with lots of women who are on HRT versus lots of women who chose not to go on HRT. So this is what I'm basing this on after having discussions with them. And this is over the past 20 years. So for my female clients who have been on HRT, yes, they do notice a huge difference. They have their energy levels are much better. They sleep way better at night. Libido, mood, libido is much higher. Mood's much better. Less like night sweats and stuff like that. These are all side effects from going on HRT that they've told me they feel great. It almost, I've had a few of my female clients tell me too, it almost feels like their hormones have been regulated again. A lot of them noticed a lot of hormonal imbalances. Like what this person is explaining, they feel very tired, very easily irritable, not sleeping when they weren't on HRT, right? But with that said, there are some side effects to HRT, one of them being breast cancer. So you have to kind of, this is where it comes into having a good doctor too, because you have to kind of weigh out the risks and the benefits, right? And if breast cancer runs in your family, HRT might be something that you don't want to go on. Or if you're someone who is, for example, who is post-cancer and you've gone through chemo treatments, HRT might be something that you want to stay away from. So that's something that you'd obviously want to talk and have a discussion with your doctor. But I can say the majority of my female clients who are over the age of 50, who are or have been on HRT therapy, they all seem to really like it. Again, this is not me saying that it's good or bad. I'm just basing this off the experience that I have working with the general population and working with women over the age of 50, that they just find that everything just feels better for them, everything. I haven't had any of my clients over the age of 50 who have been on HRT therapy have any really adverse side effects yet. I mean, there's a lot of my clients who've just gone on HRT therapy in the last 3 or 4 years, right? So that's not a very long time. But I think as long as you're going for regular checkups, you're getting your blood work done, you know, and like I said, if breast cancer runs in your family, you're getting checkups regularly. Again, this is a question that only you can answer. Should I go on this or should I not go on this? I can't tell you, but I can just tell you that the majority of my clients, I would say actually over 90% of my female clients who are on or have been on HRT therapy, they love it. And they only have spoken very highly of it. So something to think about. And now, especially now, there's a lot more advancements in HRT and TRT therapy. We know so much more than we did 15, 20 years ago. So this is, again, where it comes into having a good doctor by your side who can guide you and say, okay, I think we should try this. And there's different ways to do it too, right? So again, talk to your doctor. It sounds like your doctor is recommending that. I know a lot of doctors recommend it now too for a lot of women, but that's something that you have to decide, right? It's similar to what I tell my guys when they decide to go on TRT. I say, only you can make that decision. Nobody can force it on you, but you have to kind of weigh the risks to benefit ratio, right? So does it work? Of course it works. But again, you're going to be the one that makes that decision, and do your research, talk to your doctor, and then you make a decision. Anyways, that's it for this week's Q&A. This will be going up on Friday afternoon. And remember, if you have any questions related to your diet, training, or supplementation, please feel free to email me at nick@foreverfitperformance.com, or you can also DM me your questions and on @CauseGrove_. Anyway, guys, that's it. Have a great weekend. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next week. Bye for now.